What do you think about this game that took place between the Suns and the Mavs this past weekend? If there's a potential rivalry that's brewing between these two teams.
I mean, I like it. Obviously, when you talk about what happened last year in the postseason, the chippiness that happened throughout that series, all the way through to Game Seven, how it ended in favor of Dallas, which obviously I loved. And then you go into this season with, Phoenix starting off a little slow. Devin Booker had some injuries. Obviously, this year for Dallas, it's kind of just been an up and down year. Win one, lose two, win two, lose three. It's just the epitome of an inconsistent season. Both teams go out and acquire superstars or additional superstars in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, respectively. And you kind of add fuel to the already existing fire and the tensions from last season of how it ended. And you go into a game like this where Kevin Durant and Kyrie were obviously teammates just a few weeks ago in Brooklyn, and they're adding fuel to what already exists between, Devin Booker and Luka Doncic and the rest of the each supporting cast. And I think that it's great for basketball. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's been a rivalry ongoing for the last 5, 6 seasons or anything like that. But when you build off of what happened last year, if this continues to be close, both teams continue to meet in the playoffs, and you go vice versa. Like Phoenix wins one year, Dallas wins the series another year. That's what I would consider to be a rivalry. But Devin Booker's a little on the younger side. Obviously, Luka's a little on the younger side. KD's a little up there. Kyrie is, I think, either just approaching 30 or if not 30. And we already talked about if Kyrie's going to come back or not, and we both agree that we don't think he will. In terms of the teams as a whole, I think both teams played exceptionally well. I mean, there was no defense played whatsoever in this game. I mean, obviously, you saw that the score ended up being, 130 to 126, another game where the Mavericks just completely could not guard a soul. But that also meant that Phoenix couldn't guard anybody either. And, KD had 37. Devin Booker had 36, Luka had 34, Kyrie had 30, but there was good support from other players as well. Christian Wood had 17, Tim Hardaway had 21. I mean, for Phoenix, when you go and you look at the other side for them as well, Chris Paul had 11 and 7. This guy Wainwright, I think he just got a 2-year extension signed, but from Phoenix, he went and dropped 12 points. But each team was doing what they needed to do, and it was a pretty clean game overall. 9 turnovers for Phoenix, 10 turnovers for Dallas. Nothing exceptional for you to say, wow, this was just an overall sloppy game. But from the game as a whole, what I foresee is whoever plays defense is going to be the one that wins this game. Whoever gets a stop is going to be the one who wins this game. In the case of, Kevin Durant getting off that final shot to put Phoenix up and Luka missing, Luka missed a layup at the rim. It happens. Again, that had nothing to do with defense. That's a missed opportunity. So this very well could have went into overtime, to be honest with you. It's just a matter of execution. I'm very concerned that Dallas as a whole is relying just obviously on the two scores of Luka and Kyrie, and they're still kind of growing together, but the lack of defense is really pissing me off because there are just so many instances where Luka will be guarding somebody at face value, and once they get on his hip, he doesn't continue to follow. He kind of lets them go. He tries to poke at the ball from behind, and then that's a bucket. And that is like 90% of his defensive stops or 90% of his defensive efforts. So unless we find a way to turn it around, I don't know what's going to happen as the season progresses. But Phoenix showed that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are having no mesh issues, no chemistry issues whatsoever. And it's just a matter of how far can they go. When you add someone of KD's caliber, it's just a matter of how far can you go. So we'll see what happens. If we match up again in the playoffs, I wouldn't be upset. I think it'd be a great series. But yes, I think if this continues, this could be a very good rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, for the game itself, it was very competitive. It was really just a back and forth effort. Bless you. I know, Kev, you're
Thank
going
you.
through your allergies.
Yeah.
So I'll just kick it to my screen. But no, when it comes to this game in particular, like I said, it was competitive. It was back and forth. And frankly, it was just entertaining. And for me, I'm not a Suns fan. I'm not a Mavericks fan. I know Cav is a diehard Mavs fan. And we were talking about this before the game. Well, not before the game. Before we'd started recording. And Kev is usually somebody that's very focused on effort. And I remember we were talking about it before we started recording, and he was saying that the effort was there. It just came down to execution. And look, when it comes to Luka missing that floater with about 5 seconds left in the fourth quarter, 9 times out of 10, that shot's going to go in. That one time happened to be this instance where he missed it, and it had a pretty significant outcome because, like Kev said, that game could have gone into overtime, and you never really know where things could go from there. But this was a game where both stars on each respective team showed out. Kevin Durant dropped 37. Devin Booker dropped 36. I mean, when you talk about those two combined, they scored 73 points, which was more than half of the team's points. And then when it came to Luka and Kyrie, they combined for 64. Luka had 34. Kyrie had 30. The offensive firepower that both of these teams possess, it's apparent. And when it comes to the Mavs, I would say their trade for Kyrie was a double-edged sword because you're getting a great scorer in Kyrie, but on the back half of it, your defensive effort and your defensive productivity is probably going to take a dip, and especially with Luka not being the best defender on that side of the court. So, and a lot of the games that Dallas has played since acquiring Kyrie have been in this manner where they're losing these really close, sometimes one-possession games that could be decided by a potential game-winning shot, and they're just falling on the wrong side of the decision, or of the result, I should say. But when it comes to these two teams and how I see these two teams playing out for the rest of the year and then potentially going into the playoffs, I would love to see these two teams run it back for a playoff series. I mean, obviously, I know the Suns would have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, excuse me, based on how last year ended for them. And it'd be interesting to see, the whole Kevin Durant, Devin Booker dynamic play out against Luka and Kyrie. And I think it would just be a fireworks show when it would come to these two teams potentially playing a 7-game series in the playoffs. I would love that. It's just right now, if I had to give the edge, I'd probably give the edge to the Suns just because somebody's got to slow down KD. And even though that I thought the Mavs individually were playing decent defense against KD, KD's just better. KD's able to rise up, get a little bit of space, get a little bit of separation, and he's just able to knock down shots consistently. And then when you got a good partner to go with in Devin Booker, you also have other players like Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. You got Cameron Payne coming off the bench. That's going to be a tough squad to stop. Now, Dallas, they got some shooters, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be tough for them. But I like the fact that both of these teams are chippy, they're getting after it, and they're putting it on the line every single time that these guys go out there on the court. So hopefully we get to see these two teams in a playoff series either this year or potentially in the foreseeable future. But overall, it was a great game between these two teams, and got to give the credit to the Suns for just edging out a win in Dallas when there was no defense whatsoever. But 130 points was good enough in this case for them. So good on the Suns.